Welcome to the very first episode of Future Consideration, our big NFL draft show of the 2016 draft season. Today, we are talking all things scouting combine, the players that could make or break their own careers with a big performance in Indy, where they stack up against similar players, what events are crucial when evaluating these players. I'm joined by Matt Ufford. Let's get into it. Your big picture thoughts on the combine to start off.
The combine is where the big, stupid NFL offseason begins, where we take all the accumulated college football tape, all the plays they've done, and we just throw it out the window and bring in the measurables. All the teams that value the combine above tape are the ones that are going to be sitting in the cellar for another season.
Yeah, we all become tailors, just like measuring and just like, okay, sure.
Looks like a quarterback must be able to read defenses.
So there's nothing really we haven't seen. So what should people be looking for in Indy with the signal callers?
Yeah, nothing that you're going to see on the NFL Network. This is, forget the 40-yard dash, forget hand size. I mean, that stuff matters for quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But what's really going to matter to teams is the interviews that happen behind closed doors. Because when you're investing, especially a first-round draft pick, into a quarterback, you want to know that this guy has not just the ability to do it on the field, but also has the intelligence and maturity to lead your entire organization.
Yeah, it's a long-term thing. Is this somebody that can sort of withstand the rigors of the league? Even if they start next year and go 4-12, they can learn from their mistakes and are mature.
That said, there are plenty of teams that do favor like, this guy's big and fast. We kind of liked him, but now we really like him.
Right, so this year, Jared Goff obviously has shown an ability to be an NFL quarterback, has made a ton of throws at the college level. Carson Wentz physically is there, but the level of competition he has, so he really is going to need to wow people during the interview process that he's ready to take over, basically, an NFL team and lead them along the way. And then the guys on the second tier, whether it's Connor Cook, Kevin Hogan, Dak Prescott, even Vernon Adams, guys who have very specific strengths that they can show the sort of more complete package to jump up maybe a half or a full round.
Yeah, they can go from like a fourth round to the third round, something like that. And over the next couple weeks, here's Jared Goff. This is what we've seen him on a better team against tougher competition. Carson Wentz, and then as Carson Wentz displays his physical abilities, you're going to see him rise.
And if Jared Goff is filled out a little bit with his wiry frame. All right, at receiver, your thoughts. Obviously, the 40-yard dash, a little more important with receivers. What's the big thing that teams are going to be looking for with wide receivers?
Yeah, it's one thing to say like, oh, this guy ran a blazing fast 40, but like, straight line speed is not that important for wide receivers. This is something where wide receivers are never really fully. I would say the most important thing is the guys who are injured, who are coming off injuries, have they fully recovered from those injuries? Because we see it year in and year out, guys like Antonio Brown, guys like Tyler Lockett, that are undervalued. All they've done is produce meaningful plays in college football games. And because they're not big enough or some other physical attribute.
And showed a ton of route running polish as well.
Exactly. Yeah, of course you want to see a guy who can bench press because, maybe that gets him out of a jam and press coverage. But what actually gets him out of that is film showing him getting out of a jam and press coverage.
As an aggressor. Yeah, absolutely. In this year's class, it's not a hugely successful receiver class. I think Laquan Treadwell at the top makes sense. He's a pretty complete receiver. You've got guys who are super fast, but a little bit shorter. You've got guys that are bigger. Curious maybe like Michael Thomas from Ohio State, if he can vault up a little bit by running a really nice 40 and showing off more than just deep route running polish. And then even guys like Braxton Miller, who are tantalizing talents with the ball, but he's only played the position for a year and is coming off of a couple big injuries.
Yeah, that's where the NFL draft is really good stuff. And a pro day will help Braxton Miller out as well. You've identified what you think might be this year's Tyler Lockett / Antonio Brown.
I like Sterling Shepard from Oklahoma. He's a little bit smaller, but he's a guy who's played the last 4 years, so much route running polish. He's not the biggest blazer in the world in terms of top level speed, but he tricks corners. He gets in between corners and safeties. He is just, I think he is so pro ready just with his knowledge of the position. I love that.
What about the beef? What about the offensive and defensive lines? Because every single team in the NFL could use more depth and more talent in the trenches.
It's all about the vertical for the offensive lineman. No, it is not at all about the vertical. No, people look at the bench press. It's fine, you want strength, but I think more functionally speaking, the broad jump. Show that lower body explosion. I think the interviews are something that are interesting. It's really the visuals. People like to make fun of like, a bunch of big fat guys in their underwear. No, it actually...
I really like that.
Matt does like that. It's one of those things where 6'5", 300 pounds is not an equal measurement for every single dude. You have to be able to carry... You want a big guy, you don't want a fat guy. You want a sort of tone guy, you don't want a soft guy. And so just the evaluation of frame and what are they going to grow into, what are they going to look like in 8 years, it is important with these offensive, defensive linemen. Arm length, always important because so much goes on in the trenches. You want to you got to do everything you can to keep like a Von Miller away from you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it doesn't matter how many bench press reps that they're actually knocking out. What matters is, oh, hey, this guy has stayed in shape. He looks like he's ready to play football today. He hasn't gone off the deep end and doesn't look like Andre Smith. You know, like that's the sort of thing. You don't want to look like a hefty sack filled with soup.
Yes, and we know the top of the offensive tackle class with Ronnie Stanley and Laramie Tunsil. It's an interesting second, third, fourth round guard class to me. Landon Turner, Sebastian Tritola. These are guys that have shown bursts and have been really good for great offensive teams. They're probably not physically all the way there, but if they can show something, if they're broad jumping, if they're running short shuttles at really impressive times, you're showing athletic traits, and these are guys that can move up half round to a round.
Yes, for offensive linemen, especially for guys who are less polished, because you want to see guys with nimble feet, especially the college game blocks in a different way from the pro game. And so if you don't have that fully developed technique, if you can show the raw skills, the nimble feet, the light feet, that means that you can be coached up to play in the pros, and that's a huge advantage for you.
Defensively, it's pretty similar, and it's an unbelievable pass rushing class. I mean, between Shaq Lawson, Robert Condishe, not even looking at top 15 picks, there is so much talent everywhere. I'm curious about guys that have very specific skills, once again, like Liam Neeson from Taken, a very specific set of skills. Sean Oakman from Baylor.
Liam Neeson is a high motor guy.
High motor guy, who I like Andrew Billings, Sean Oakman's teammate, inside. He's not sort of in that first round conversation, at least not yet, in a lot of places, but he outlifted Mark Henry, AKA Sexual Chocolate, as a Texas high school senior. There's so much functional strength. He was the best player on that Baylor defense. There's guys like that that are going to be able to show that against competition.
And of course, there's Ashawn Robinson, who, if teams are willing to take a chance on a 35-year-old man,
good for them.
That's a great player to add to your defensive line.
Yeah, so that's what you should be watching. It's all about like the feet and the arms. The broad jump, I think, is more important than people think. A lot of big names can improve their stock. So that is who you should be watching this year in the Combine. That gentleman's name is Matt Alford. I'm Dan Rubenstein. Let's keep this conversation going in the comments. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for watching Future Consideration. We're going to be publishing a pre-draft video every Monday leading up to the NFL draft. So if you liked it, give us that thumbs up and subscribe to SB Nation.
And let's keep that conversation going in the comments. I want to hear what you think.